And welcome back to my channel once again. If you're new here, my name is Chioma and this is Mommy's Yum, and today I'm going to be talking about a hot topic. Yeah, it's a topic that people are always arguing about. Yeah, people are always judgmental about it. People are telling people what they ought to do and what they ought not to do, whether it's their business to poke nose into people's lives or not. But yeah, I'm going to talk about that topic today, but not in the way that people like talking about it. So the topic I'm going to be talking about today is about breastfeeding and formula feeding. Yes, this video is going to talk about things that they didn't tell us about breastfeeding and formula feeding. Not breast milk and formula milk, but breastfeeding and formula feeding. A lot of us, we are told about you have to breastfeed your child and all that. Breast milk is this, breast milk is that. You have to give your child baby formula. There's nothing wrong in giving your child baby formula, blah 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 blah. But nobody told us about other things. There are other advantages of breastfeeding. Mark my word, breastfeeding, not breast milk. And there are disadvantages of breastfeeding, as well as advantages of formula feeding and disadvantages of formula feeding. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today, so that you mom there who is going to give birth to that beautiful baby, you are at least informed. You know some things that you are going to expect when that baby comes, and when you make your choice on what type of feeding that you want to give your child. So like I said, this is not a judgmental video. We are not talking about why you should breastfeed your child or why you should formula feed your child. This is a personal choice. This is something that you know the reason why you're making your choices. But what I'm going to do today is just to talk about those things that can help you weigh and make your choices. All right, things that we didn't know about, nobody told us. Okay, so if this is something that you would like to hear about, sit back, and before we start, please give this video a thumbs up. Please support Mommy's Yum to grow, and also subscribe to Mommy's Yum if you haven't done so. Thank you to all the people that have subscribed already. If you haven't, thank you for watching, and please do subscribe, please, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm always getting my words mixed up. Thumbs up, please give this video a thumbs up. I'm just going to explain what is breastfeeding. We know what is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the act of feeding your child with your breast milk. All right, yeah, the milk that comes from you, the mom, most especially. Nowadays you can actually feed your child breast milk from other moms. There are people can donate breast milk, and it can be given to moms that are not able to breastfeed. So that option is out there, but I don't think it's everywhere. It's not all over the world. Some people have the opportunity to get that, some people don't. Sorry. And formula feeding is the act of feeding your child with infant formula, which is a milk that has been specially formulated to be given to babies from birth to 1 year. So if your baby is not up to 1 year, they can only take formula milk or any other specially formulated milk recommended by your doctor. Okay, so do not listen to anybody telling you to give your baby any other milk. I've had a lot of questions on my website on people asking whether they can give their children their babies tiger nut milk, soya milk and all that, and I'm like, please do not, unless your doctor says so. They are harmful to children. Even if you are not seeing the harm now, you don't know the potential consequences of that in their later life and what it will cause them. So please, that's very important. Formula milk is specially formulated for babies from 0 to 12 months, and that's what your baby is meant to take. So when I'm talking about breastfeeding and formula feeding in this video, I'm going to be talking about this act of feeding baby with just breast milk or either formula milk from 0 to 6 months, because that is the only thing that your baby requires to eat until they start eating other solid foods at 6 months. This is a separate video that I'm going to talk about later, so I'm not going to go into that. So when we come to the benefits of, or when we come to the advantages of breastfeeding, like I said, I'm talking about breastfeeding, not breast milk. One advantage of breastfeeding is that you are giving your baby free milk. It is cheap. You are not buying milk. It comes from you. So it's free milk. Number two is that it's convenient. You can give it to your child anytime. You don't need to wash or maybe get anything. You know, you are there. You are always there for your baby. Once baby wants it, you flip it out and give to your baby. Okay, you don't need any bottles and all that. So if you are going to be a breastfeeding mom, you don't need to, or if you make that decision that you want to breastfeed your child, you don't need to buy bottles and all that if you are going to be at home, because we are going to talk about that. Another advantage of breastfeeding for moms is that it helps their stomach to contract. So that protruding belly after giving birth contracts faster. If you have breastfed, I have experience of that. I've experienced that. As baby is sucking, you will feel that contraction. I don't know if you have experienced it. Can you leave a comment in the comment box there and tell me too, because you will feel the contraction. Sometimes it can be quite painful, I must tell you. So it is something that helps you to lose weight if you are eating right. Okay, it can help you to lose weight and can help you, you know, that baby weight that you gained. Breastfeeding can help you to lose that. Advantage of breastfeeding is that it reduces picky eating in children. Yes, you remember when you are, whatever you are eating, your child is sucking from the breast and they are getting the taste of food. So this helps them to transition to solid food much easier because they know the taste. Okay, they know the taste of the food, they're already getting it. But this depends on what you are eating actually, because if you're not eating the right thing, or if you're eating chocolates and stuff, don't start crying when your baby starts solid and refuses to eat all that carrot puree and all these recipes that have been putting out there for you. Breastfeeding helps with bonding. It helps you to bond with your baby very well, because as you are breastfeeding, your body releases that bonding hormone called oxytocin. So oxytocin is a bonding hormone in the body which helps you to bond with your child. So that's an advantage of breastfeeding. That doesn't mean if you're formula feeding you don't bond with your child. There are other ways to bond, but this is science. This is the hormone that breastfeeding brings out from the body. Okay, and then the breast milk contains antibodies. Okay, these antibodies are very beneficial for babies because it helps to build their immunity, okay, and helps them fight infection. So that is an advantage of breastfeeding. That breast milk contains antibodies which infant formula doesn't have, but we'll come to that one later. Another advantage of breastfeeding is that it lowers the risk of high blood pressure and diabetes and other ailments. This is what research has shown. So breastfeeding moms are at a lower risk of developing all these ailments. Okay, this is the advantages of breastfeeding. I don't want to go into a lot of them, but yeah, these are the few ones, and then I'll go to the disadvantages of breastfeeding because it's got disadvantages too. The first disadvantage of breastfeeding is that you have to buy special clothes for it, so it can be expensive in another way. So while you're not spending money on buying baby's milk, you are spending money on special clothes that you can wear so that you will be able to feed your baby at home and in public too. So you are buying special clothes that can open up in public, you know, something that you can easily pop out and give your child milk whenever they want. You are buying nursing bras, you are buying breast pads. That is very important. Breast pad is so important. If not, you can be seeing your dress stained with milk a lot of times. So while cost is not on baby, cost is on yourself in terms of the special clothes that you need to buy. Another disadvantage of breastfeeding is that it can be painful. Yes, it can be quite painful for the mother, especially when you have sore nipples. Some moms develop sore nipples. Sometimes our breast can be so engorged. Engorgement is when the milk is so much and it's heavy and maybe baby hasn't sucked, and you need baby to suck, but baby is not sucking, and probably you are not expressing. That's another thing in terms of cost. Is if you are going to be pumping out the pump using the breast pump, it's quite expensive to buy a good breast pump. So that's a cost in breastfeeding too. Okay, so in here, as I'm saying before, it can be quite painful. A lot of moms develop pains, serious pains, and if up to the point that they cannot even breastfeed, so it can be quite painful. That's a disadvantage. You have sore nipples, and as your nipples are sore, the baby is sucking on it and it's even getting worse. So it's a disadvantage for me. Okay, now another disadvantage is that you need extra time if you are going to be pumping. Okay, if you are going to pump milk, it's not a 2 minutes job. When I was breastfeeding and pumping, sometimes I wake up as early as 5 a.m., put my breast pump, which is an electric breast pump, get a magazine and sit down and read. At least I'm reading for 30 minutes to 1 hour while waiting for the breast to pump out enough milk that I can keep for the baby. So that's the disadvantage. The time that you use to do other things, you have to sit down there and be pumping. I think technology has made things a bit easier now. I think some moms actually maybe have the breast pump that they can put on their breast and be walking around at least and be doing some other chores at home. If you have that, at least it reduces the time, but still that is what you have to think about. Okay, because it will take extra money too, so it's an extra cost. Another disadvantage of breastfeeding is public feeding. It's so difficult to feed in public. You have to find a quiet place. You have to look for a place to feed your baby, because you have to open your dress. If you don't have anything to cover and all that, you have to think about all that when you are going out with your baby. So that's the disadvantage of breastfeeding. Okay, and then another disadvantage of breastfeeding is that anything you eat, you pass on to baby. So you have to be careful. If you are in terms of what you are eating, you have to be choosy, you have to be careful. You can't take some things, alcohol. If you like peanuts or groundnuts, anything, and your child has allergies, you have to be mindful of that, because whatever you eat, baby sucks. Okay, also for baby, a disadvantage for breastfed babies is that breast milk does not contain vitamin D. This is most especially for mothers living in cold climates. This is not for our Nigerian moms, because we have the sun, which is the best form of vitamin D. Okay, so vitamin D is okay. It's not a problem in Nigeria, but for people living in countries like UK, which barely has sun, you have to give your child supplement, vitamin D supplements, because the breast milk does not have that. That's a disadvantage of breastfeeding. Okay, and now I come to formula feeding. Most of the advantages in breastfeeding are the disadvantages in formula feeding, and vice versa. Okay, so I'll run through it fast so that this video does not go on for long. Okay, now an advantage of formula feeding is that you are not the only one feeding your baby. You can go out, anybody can feed your baby, because it's formula milk. It's easy. Okay, and it's also easy to do in public. That hassle of breastfeeding, you don't have it in formula feeding. Okay, another advantage of formula feeding is that you are sure of what quantity your child is taking. With breastfeeding, you don't know the quantity your child is taking. You just give them the breast and they suck until they feel full and take their mouth away. With formula feeding, you've got your milk, you have your measurement, and you see it, and you know exactly what you're giving your baby. Formula feeding is a more filling way of feeding your baby, and in a much faster way. Okay, breastfeeding, you know how many, sometimes the number of hours you can stay before your baby gets filled up. You're always looking for breast every time. That's the thing. Okay, the complications of breastfeeding are not in formula feeding. Breast engorgement, sore nipples, yeah. If you are formula feeding your child, you don't need to go through that. Okay, and your own feeding does not affect your baby, because your baby is not sucking your breast, so you can eat anything you want at any time. That's not a problem. Now, the disadvantage of formula feeding is that it is expensive too. in terms of the milk. If you are formula feeding, if you can, in the comment section, can you tell me how many tins of milk your child finishes your baby finishes in a week? Formula milks, I believe, are quite expensive, and it's quite expensive to buy formula milk, especially for babies that eat a lot, or for someone that has twins, triplets, and maybe multiple babies. It can be really quite expensive. That's a disadvantage of formula feeding. There's more preparation involved in formula feeding. You have to wash the bottle, you have to sterilize the bottle, you have to make the milk, so there's a lot of preparation. It's more rigorous, trying to get everything ready, and it has to be hygienic. So it's a big disadvantage if you cannot keep your things hygienically. Put your bottles, your sterilizers, everything, make sure that they are all there. So that's a disadvantage in terms of the preparation. Okay, so probably sometimes you may have to have a lot of bottles so that you can be feeding, sterilizing, keeping, and all that, especially if you are going out. Now, another disadvantage of formula feeding is that while the milk is inspired by breast milk, it does not contain those antibodies that are in breast milk, so it is not exactly the same. Okay, but on the flip side of it, it contains vitamins. Is enriched with vitamins, like the vitamin D that is lacking in the breast milk is already there in the formula milk. So formula milk is also quite enriched, and that's why it is also the best milk for your child next to breast milk. I think I've done justice to this, and if you think I did, please don't forget to leave a comment. Okay, while talking about this, there are some moms that can opt for combination feeding. Sometimes combination feeding is most times what a lot of people opt for. That's combining breastfeeding the child and also giving them baby formula. If that is something that you can, it is something that you can also consider while looking at whether you want to breastfeed your child or formula feed your child. So you can have 3 options: so breastfeeding, formula feeding, or combination feeding. I hope what I've explained is something that has given you an opportunity to know how to make your choices. If this video has been beneficial to you, please don't forget to click the like button, please, and subscribe if you haven't done so. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Give me a thumbs up. And if this video